It was a bright sunny day, a balmy breeze was blowing, and all seemed calm and beautiful until...
Looking now, we're coming into the home stretch. We have the green flag, we have the green flag!
With a roar of modified engines and the familiar whistle of turbo blow-offs, heroes of speed from Guyana, Barbados, the Cayman Islands, and of course Jamaica invaded the Dover Raceway, intent on staging a wonderful carnival of speed under the banner Caribbean Invasion 2012. Not to be outdone, patrons of all shapes, sizes, and experience were there in force. Racers primed and ready, patrons out in force. Food and drink flowing abundantly and not a threatening cloud in the sky. Caribbean Invasion 2012 at the Dover Raceway was ready to begin. Though a bit late, race day at Dover got off to a pretty good start with the B32 and B27 race, which proved true to the old maxim, third time's the charm. The cars being paced twice after two false starts before finally getting the race off on the third try.
And the race is off. George Bailey quickly pulling out into the front, establishing himself as a strong lead, slowing down for the total corner. George Bailey remains in Peter Jagon, we're also watching them.
The way it started was the way it ended, with most of the driver positions remaining virtually unchanged for the duration of the race. At the end of the race, the assumed B32 winner, Dean Carrodus, one of the executive members of the JRDC, had this to say on the race.
The car is exactly the same that it was for this meet, because yesterday was Saturday, I was unable to qualify. So coming today this morning, starting from the back, I was very comfortable. There were 4 people ahead of me. And by the second or third lap, I had gained the lead. It was a very comfortable win. The person who finished second was the person who won the event. The last meet, Sebastian Ray, he was the meet champion at the Easter Carnival of Speed. Sebastian is a very good driver. He was making his car very, very wide. But he seemed to be suffering a little bit of problem. Maybe he had gear selection problems, I'm not sure. But I saw him losing concentration, and then I took advantage of one of those little lapses to get in front of him. After I got in front of him, it was pretty easy to stay ahead, because I think something may be wrong with his car. The other competitors, I don't know what happened to them. They were so far behind, I couldn't see them.
Curiously enough, the same effort that went into maintaining those positions for the B27s, George Bailey, Heath Coswell, and Andre Anderson, and for the B32, Dean Carrodus and Sebastian Ray, resulting in all breaking out of their classes and thus were not awarded any positions in the race. So the Bible was right. The race is certainly not for the swift. The Caribbean motorcyclists also had a good show in store for the crowd. Adrian Blake of Class A predictably maintaining the lead for most of the race with good showings for Halkin Rodney, the Bada Bada rider, and Bajan Terence Oliver, also of Class A. Robert McDonald and Coswell Lewis from Class B. The race seemed entirely predictable well into the final lap for the Class A riders until literally seconds before the finishing line. Andre Norman snatched the victory from Adrian Blake, much to the crowd's delight and also to Adrian Blake's surprise.
To get that first place, if Andre maintains this will be his very first place in Class A. Adrian Blake must be sweating. The time is running out, and a great job by Andre Norman. Adrian opened the gate.
Robert McDonald comfortably held on to his first place position in the Class B category. For the MP4 MP3 Race 1, the word was anticipation. Of course, you know, that's a noun. And I guess the new definition is the state of excitement resulting from the beginning of the MP4 MP3 Race 1, especially when giants David Somerville and Doug Gore take the grid. With the level of anticipation that could be felt at the beginning of this momentous race, the word certainly could be redefined just for this purpose. The crowd was already excited with news of David Somerville's record-breaking qualifying time of 1:17.755 and expecting nothing less than nail-biting challenges from the beastly ATL Audi TT driven by Doug Hollywood Gore despite the car's added weight. So imagine the fever pitch when no sooner had the race begun that there was Peter Ray right alongside Doug Gore, seeming ready to snatch the second place position.
It's Doug Gore. Can you believe it? There was Peter Ray right beside Doug Gore, and he's still maintaining that challenge. David Somerville out in front, Peter Ray right behind Doug Gore, keeping the challenge strong, and Matthew Gore chasing Peter Ray with all his might. In MP3 we have Andre Anderson still maintaining his lead, with Heath Coswell behind him. Doug Gore is making a challenge on David Somerville, but he pulls away. The Evolution is flying, ladies and gentlemen. Now going down the straight into the Jamaica Automobile Association corner. David Somerville extends his lead, but Doug Gore is catching him up with superior traction right there. And let us see what happens now. Going down into the Caribbean Cement corner. The Evolution, driven by the King, David Somerville, is showing really well on the track right now. Going into the Caribbean Cement corner, we're still following the top three. David Somerville, Doug Gore, and Peter Ray. Peter Ray still making his challenge at Doug, but Doug still focusing his efforts on Somerville. Let's look at the rest. Here we go again. And Peter Ray challenging Doug Gore once more.
After a few tries, Ray finally did just that, edging past Gore just outside of corner 2 into the tire warehouse corner, though the victory was short-lived as Gore immediately reclaimed his position.
Ahead of Doug Gore, but Doug Gore takes the lead back. We can always expect it. He makes another challenge. He seems intent on claiming the second place from Doug Gore.
In all this, the King, David Somerville Jr., maintained a comfortable lead as the bright red Total-sponsored Evolution 8 practically flew around the track well ahead of his two main competitors. Not to be outdone, Andre Anderson in his red Total-sponsored Myvic took the lead in the MP3 category and firmly held on to it for the duration of the race, racing ahead of Paul Andy Bard and Peter Bull Thompson from the MP4 category, maintaining his plunder after what could have been a catastrophic impact with Paul Bard in the JAA corner. David Somerville went on to leisurely win the MP4 category ahead of Doug Gore in second, and Gore's biggest challenge in this race, Peter Ray, in third. Andre Anderson won the MP3 category, followed by Dean Shaw. At the end of the race, Team Zoom Zoom was in jubilant spirits following the spectacular performance by Peter Ray. He offered this review of the race.
Qualifying wasn't that good. I was third on the grid, but probably about 4 seconds off David and Doug. But I knew at the start the car has incredible move off for a rotary with very little torque. I was able to pull along Doug and actually stretch him into corner 1, but I was being a little timid on the braking, and he shot past me under his braking and took the corner. But as I pressured him, I noticed he was stepping out on the rear. So was I. But I kept the pressure on and passed him down the back straight. He late braked me again. And then on about the 4th to 5th lap near the end, I started to get a pedal creep, and I said, let me just back off. But, I just gave the crowd a little taste of what's to come.
With Kyle Gregg and Alan Chen in first and second positions on the grid, the interest of the crowd in this race was certainly aroused. The memory of the crash that caused the tenuous rivalry between the two was still fresh in the minds of many. Both racers had different takes on the incident at the last meet.
He went to the left of the guy, I went on the inside. The guy's front wheel touched my back left wheel, flicked me up in the air, and I head straight on into Alan.
It's a racing mistake that he made. Yes, he came into contact with another car, but in my mind, if you're in trouble, cut your speed.
With that said, everybody was expecting this rivalry to play out on the track. Being a Caribbean race, the CMRC2 MP1 MP2 race featured a driver from Guyana, Harold Hopkinson, and two brothers from Barbados, Mark and Kurt Thompson. This was also the first race in which Natasha Chiny Dolly Chang made her return to the track. The race began with Kyle Gregg out in front, though closely pursued by Alan Chen, who in turn was being chased by Sebastian Ray.
Alan Chen and Kyle Gregg are there, but there's Kyle Gregg out in front and Alan Chen behind him. They are going at it. I told you, this is a rivalry born of collision, and they are certainly here to prove something today. Trailing behind Carl Gregg, we have Sebastian Ray. And now we're seeing the rivalry and the competition between Alan Chen and Carl Gregg pick up just a little bit, only to slack off once again. We're still following. There it seems that Alan Chen takes the inside and comes right past Carl Gregg. But Carl Gregg is not letting it go that easily. Carl Gregg takes it back, rolling on the inside. But Alan Chen goes again, almost beside him, almost gaining the advantage. But once again, falling behind Kyle Gregg. We are seeing, maybe we could interpret this as a little bit of cautious driving. We're not sure, but let's watch how this competition plays out. Let us see how this competition plays out.
After rather relaxed driving from most of the other drivers, the race ended with almost all the positions established from the first lap, holding true to the end. Kyle Gregg winning the MP2 category ahead of Alan Chen. A little breathless in the aftermath, both drivers seemed quite pleased with the race.
It was a good race. I mean, Alan has been faster than me for the past 2 race meets. So I said to myself I had to get a good start because I was starting second. But my confidence was there. I know I got a good start. You know, once I got in front of him, I said, all right, just drive good, drive defensive, drive fast. And I said, you can take him out. You can go for it. You can win it. And at one point, you know, you got side by side with me, and I was, you know, the adrenaline rush started kicking, and you said, no, not one. But it was a good race, you know. That means it's just the first race. I mean, I have 2 more races, but Alan has been fast, very fast. But I'm surprised still I beat him.
It was a pretty good race. He drove very clean, because I made a pass on him and he accepted it, because I was a little faster on the corner. He kind of jumped the start, and his car is also faster than mine, so you see him pull away and take the lead. But it was a good, clean race.
Any chance of beating him in the next race?
I don't know, his car is fast.
But you are faster than him, you were able to make a pass on him. And we know that you have a bag of tricks as well.
Yeah, well, I can make a faster lap time. But because of the straights, it's kind of impossible for me to actually pass him on the straights. You know, so and he's driving a protective line. So all in all, I mean, I'm satisfied with the second and not an eager person for first. As long as we're out there, we have some fun and tussle and thing and a clean run, we're good.
Tariq Minot won the MP1 category, followed by Natasha Chang. Anticipation once again peaked with the start of the second race in the MP4-MP3 set. One big thing had changed, however. Peter Ray having been disqualified from the first race due to not having time to change into the proper tires, and thus racing on older tires, started from the back of the pack, and as public sentiment would tell it, freeing up Doug Gore to focus on taking down King Somerville. The race kicked off on the very first try, and the racers let their vehicles loose. In a tightly knit pack at the front were David Somerville, Doug Gore and Matthew Gore, though that auto was soon due for quite the shake-up.
Doug Gore in second, and Matthew Gore challenging his brother, but he spins a little bit, but he seems to have regained control and he's coming down. There's Heath Coswell right behind Doug Gore, and Bull Thompson making a strong challenge. Doug Gore and Somerville are fighting it out. Somerville is Doug Gore is right beside Somerville, and he makes a pass right in the AC Delco corner. Somerville is not letting it go that easy.
The two Dover Giants kept up this duel into the second and third laps, and while the crowd kept one eye on them, their focus was soon turned to Peter Ray, who had certainly given the fans a reason to expect spectacular performances on the track. Battling his way from the back past Bull Thompson, it was apparent that Ray had set his sights on the top 3 at least, as he doggedly tried to unseat Heath Coswell from the 4th position for the better part of the second lap.
And there goes Peter Ray once again. Now he's in front of Heath Coswell. Peter Ray has taken Heath Coswell's position.
With Coswell down 1 position and Matthew Gore realizing the very real challenge being presented by the new 4th place holder, the focus of the race seemed to have wholly shifted from the front, where Somerville and Gore continued to battle. Realizing the danger was one thing, but repelling the challenge was another thing entirely, as Peter Ray, after not much time, also claimed the 3rd place from Matthew Gore. All this counted for naught, however, when not long after, Peter Ray stopped completely just out of the Carib cement corner as a result of stones getting through the two fans at the front of the RX-7 and completely shutting down his ECU. Really, quite disappointing after the great gains Ray made so far in the race. The race ended with little else in the way of excitement, though just before crossing the line, King Somerville made a last-ditch effort to make it past Doug Gore, though Gore was successful in retaining the win. We definitely had to talk to Doug Gore on the win, especially looking back at the trouble Peter Ray gave him in the first MP4 race.
We did some changes, the fuel pressure was off. We did some changes to the handling of the car. Car was all over the place on the first time I went out, to the point where even Peter Ray was behind me hounding. It was like a scary out there on the first race, and I said to the guys, I said, I can't drive the car like this for the rest of the day. I mean, this is madness. As I said, the crew went ahead and did some adjustments, and it all worked out right. And I'm really glad that I can pull it off. The thing is that my car will be reliable. It will be there, every race as long as I don't crash. And knock on wood.
As predicted, Andre Anderson claimed the win in the MP3 category.
Looking at our audience in the chat room, some are saying it's a joy to have females in the race. And
the B38 race was met with some excitement, mainly due to the female presence in the race. For the second time on the race day, Natasha Chiny Dolly Chang was taking to the track, and for the first time for this meet, the Princess Samantha Somerville was in position on the grid. The NCU team took the time to find out from these two ladies for a standing sit-down on their mental and physical prep going into the races.
Okay, still not as confident, still doing this as a learning experience, but gonna go out there and do my best, see how it goes. Hopefully I'll do well.
It didn't take any encouragement, I've been missing it. I took a little break for personal reasons, and I mean, I missed it so much for the couple of years that I was away. I mean, it's an undescribable feeling to be back on the track.
So what, a cat fight then?
No, not a cat fight, but we'll have a little bit of fun warring. It's all in the sport.
Also making a return was Lincoln Small, who experienced quite the crash in the last meet, dealing with extensive damage to his Mitsubishi Evolution 4. When asked about the crash itself, Lincoln had this to say.
Was coming around corner 2 there, right? The track was very wet and slippery, and I just picked up a slight skid, tried to correct it, overcompensate, and the car just ended up in a spin. And my good friend Spencer with me, I'm determined that I shouldn't have any fender or any bonnet on my car, so I'm just rip off the whole front of my car and so, but it's racing, there was nothing that the other driver could have done. So we'll just rebuild, and we'll come back and we're here for represent today and for make up that last race.
So, back he is, but is he up to par? Can we expect to see him at the front of the pack again?
Well, yeah, man, because most of the work was just cosmetics, so it never affected drivetrain or engine performance. So we're going to start at the back again today, because as I said, the advantage I couldn't qualify yesterday. And last time we start from the back, and the God just pushed me right up to the front. So there's a hope that today now God just basically push us up back to the front, and we start out the thing. Right, we're just really glad to be back. I'm really thank the team, Extreme Performance, JPS, and HS Engineering for getting me back here to make a show for myself.
The race finally kicked off after one false start, and all the racers drove well, giving and taking for the progression of it. The female drivers, Chiny Dolly and Princess Somerville, even had a brief duel going on.
Here we have a duel going on between Natasha Chung and Samantha Somerville. Natasha Chung seems to have won this duel thus far. And this is the final lap. Whatever is going to be done has to be done in this lap. At front, it's getting really aggressive. It seems that there we have Natasha Chung pulling out ahead of Samantha Somerville. Yes, and she's holding that lead in front of her. But in front, we have Peter Jagon in first place, and Kirk Diaz seems to be unwilling to let it go. He's still holding it.
At the end of it all, it was Sheldon Morgan who claimed the checkered flag, and not Kirk Diaz, who was found guilty of breaking out of his class, though he crossed the finishing line first. Excitement was like the tide at Caribbean Invasion 2012, surging and retreating based on the current occupants of that 1.6-mile glorious closed-circuit roadway. The power-packed CMRC 1 race featuring drivers from all participating Caribbean territories, was one such event that had the tide of excitement surging. David Somerville, Doug Gore, Peter Ray, Bull Thompson, Stuart Williams from Barbados, Andrew King from Guyana, George Bailey, Andre Anderson, Paul Bodd, and J.R. Hides from Cayman. These were just a few of the names featured in what promised to be an exciting event. But seconds after the flash of the green flag, with a screech of metal and a giant plume of dust, it became apparent that it was not meant to be so.
And as we saw in the first couple of oh no! Whoa, whoa! Doug Gore smashes out. We have the green flag once again, as we saw in the first couple of oh no! Whoa, whoa! Doug Gore smashes.
Though the race eventually continued, the shock of the crash did not abate and the race progressed uneventfully, with David Somerville claiming first, practically unchallenged, with Gore out of the race. We caught up with an emotional Gore after the race, who gave us his take on the crash.
We started out coming down the straightaway. I had already decided in my mind that, it's the first of the Caribbean series, 1 out of 3 races. I was just going to basically stick behind David and see if he made a mistake and pounce on him at that point. At that point, it didn't make sense, me trying to take out David or David trying to take out me. Something that we'd actually talked about beginning of the day. As long as we're out there now to try and keep it safe. It's just a pity both of us now coming down the straightaway. I was right behind David, waiting on his brake lights to come on, because I know that I can brake later than him. And then all of a sudden, I just felt a hit around in my back. And boy, all hell broke loose after that. The car just kept going and going. It felt like forever. And feeling the car going up in the air, dropping back down, going up in the air. I just thought it would never end. And finally hitting into the tire barrier down the bottom. But the car is really, really, really bad, the damage. I don't think you're going to see me back at door for the rest of the year. It's that bad. I just hope it's not the end of my racing career, because we had so much invested in this car, and the amount of damage that we have now seen is it's not good.
But while the car is damaged, how are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm feeling a little sore in my neck and my shoulders. I know I'm going to get a little whiplash pain, but I think I'll be all right. And as I said, it's more emotional right now. Just realizing that this could be the end, and I don't want it to be the end. I've been racing for 17 years, and as I tell you, we've invested so much in this car right now. So, who knows what will happen in the future.
Gore went on to talk about the car, which, according to initial reports from the ATL team, is severe. So much so that the car would have to be shipped back to Germany for inspection and hopefully repair. This is certainly not the way Team Jamaica, or anyone for that matter, saw this race going down. For the second race of the CMRCM MCA MCB motorcycle race, the riders went out on the track and rode well throughout the event, though it started and continued rather uneventfully for most of the race. In the final lap, however, Halkin Rodney took quite the spill coming out of the AC Delco corner. Fortunately, it looked worse than it actually was, and he was able to walk off the track without assistance despite the pain he must have been feeling. This time around, Adrian Blake ensured that Andre Norman did not pull off a repeat of the first CMRCM race and steal his thunder, remaining firmly in the first position for the duration of the race. Truth be told, the B45 T&N events are usually moments when the tide of excitement lowers a little at Dover race days. However, this apparently mattered not a bit to the drivers, a couple of whom took to the track intent on making it exciting. After race 1 in this category, which saw the AD wagon driven by Patrick Ricketts give the Mitsubishi Evolution driven by Glenroy Allen quite a warm time, both from the B45T, Patrons were a bit more excited to see what would happen in race 2. Unfortunately, Glenroy Allen dropped out of the race early, seemingly for mechanical reasons, and thus the rematch between the AD Wagon and the Evolution was not to be. Patrick Rickett set his sights on greater things, however, and went on to grab the first place position in convincing fashion from Neelan Barrett. In addition to the Glenroy Allen exit from the race, Anthony Buchanan also spun and crashed out of the race. Of course, who could forget Herbie, driven by Matthew Isaacs of B45N, who, though he maintained a consistent position at the back of the pack, the far back, still maintained quite a bit of support from the adoring crowd. The absence of Doug Hollywood Gore was glaringly obvious, and despite several valiant challenges by Peter Ray on the King, David Somerville, the race ended in much the same way as it began. David Somerville in first, Peter Ray in second, and Andre Anderson in third. Between CMR C1 Race 2 and B27 B32 Race 2, the audience was treated to a spectacular display of driving prowess and vehicle power as the orange BMW 1M from the Stewart Automotive Group, driven by Christopher Teach McFarlane, drifted artfully through several of the track's corners. During the periods when nothing was happening on the track, patrons also sought to create their own excitement, with varying degrees of success. For the second time for the day, the B27 and B38 racers took to the track. Missing from the B27 lineup were Charles Chen and George Bailey, leaving only Saheed Muhammad, Andre Anderson and Heath Coswell to compete for the first position. The race progressed rather uneventfully, although Andre Anderson and Heath Coswell, despite crossing the finishing line in first and second positions respectively, broke out of their class, leaving Saheed Muhammad to win by default. Dean Carotas claimed the win in the B32. Several of the drivers from race 1 of the B38 category did not take to the track for the second race in this category. The race was, again, mostly uneventful, with the leaders of the race, C. Spencer Whittingham and Kurt Diaz, casually trading places between first and second, back and forth several times even up to the finish line. The race finally ending with the victory of C. Spencer Whittingham, followed by Kurt Diaz and Chinese Dolly Natasha Chang, who drove very well in third position. After the initial set of challenges from Peter Ray on Somerville's first place position, the race settled down and ended in much the same positions as it began. David Somerville first, Peter Ray second, Andre Anderson in third. The second and final race in the CMRC MP1 MP2 category saw skillful driving from all the participating drivers such as Kyle Gregg and Alan Chen, who claimed first and second place respectively in their class. Kurt and Mark Thompson, brothers from Barbados who dueled for much of the race, Natasha Chang and Sebastian Ray.
Natasha Chang,
taking to the track after sitting out the second B38 race, the Princess Samantha Somerville's participation in this race was short-lived as she crashed into the tires going into the AC Delco corner.
Right, that line around, you can also bring it to the announcing tower, and we'll try to get it back to the rightful owner.
She walked away from the incident unharmed, though for some reason her damaged vehicle was left on the track for the duration of the race. In the aftermath of the race, the winner, Kyle Gregg, had this to say about racing techniques, the crash between he and Alan Chen, and his detractors now that the final race that pitted his skills against Chen's had been run.
I mean, last race, some people, you have the Alan Chen fans and you have the Kyle Gregg fans. That is fact. Last race meet, if you look at any race car driver, what I did, the crash with Alan, that is total racing. If that rookie never touched me, the race, maybe Alan would have got in front of me, who knows? But it wasn't my fault. Right? Some people say it's my fault, but I shouldn't have gone down. But where you pass people? Not on the inside. I just passed Alan Chen on the inside. Where I must pass him. But aggressive driving, you have to do it sometime. You have to muscle up. But at the same time, you have to be smooth because smoothness is faster. But I guess I shut up the Alan Chen fans today.
Thunder Sports, the melting pot of drivers and an all-out melee of skill and daring, had the crowd once again on their feet and alive with anticipation. Several of the drivers who were slated to participate were absent from the race, but despite this, the lineup of drivers, including David Somerville, Peter Ray, Andre Anderson, Heath Coswell, Mark and Kurt Thompson, Tariq Minot, Kyle Gregg, Alan Chen and George Bailey was no less impressive, with his main rival Doug Gore out of the race due to the catastrophic accident that saw the end of the ATL Audi TT's participation in the race day. David Somerville seemed to say to himself, "Let's make this a challenge then," and opted to start the race from the very back of the pack. Pacing complete, and with a flash of green and the deafening roar of engines,
they are off. Andre Anderson out in front with Peter Ray. Close, very close to it. Peter Ray pulls out in front of Andre Anderson. And there is Heath Caldwell in third. Oh my word, look at that. The three of them are up there and Heath.
Peter Ray decisively claimed the first position, hotly pursued by Heath Coswell and Andre Anderson. Into the second lap of the 12-lap race, brothers Kurt Thompson and Mark Thompson once again began the duel that marked their presence in the CMRC1, MP1 and MP2 races. This time joined by Don Gilbert and then Alan Chen, who came and saw and left the brothers' duel behind to pursue his own rival Kyle Gregg. Though starting from the back, David Somerville had no intention of remaining there, and after a series of skillful passes, increased his position to fourth, joining Peter Ray, Heath Coswell and Andre Anderson at the head of the race.
Heath has taken Anderson's position. Anderson on the inside comes around and takes it back. They're side by side. It is nail-biting, but Coswell is just a little bit in front, and Somerville is hanging behind them. Back his lead. Somerville still holding it. Coswell going for it again. Not so.
As Anderson struggled mightily against Coswell, Somerville made his move, the result being nothing less than what we have come to expect from the King. Kyle Gregg and Alan Chen eventually did find each other on the track, and this time fight it out they did.
Distance has closed significantly. Now to the front of the race. Back to look at that. Kyle Gregg on the outside in the tire warehouse corner, but Alan Chen still maintaining lead. Kyle Gregg now on the inside, seeking to make that pass. Still, he is behind. Now it's a corner two. Gregg is pressuring. He's on the inside. Gregg makes the pass. Chen going back for it. Chen not giving it up so easily. But Gregg has finally made the pass. Here, going into the JAA corner. Somerville increases his very well, holding Somerville at bay. Okay. Back to the total corner with
Peter Ray held the lead of the event pretty comfortably for almost all the laps, but with the King now breathing down the back of his neck, Ray upped his game a notch, and the two engaged in a brief but spirited battle for first place in the final lap of the race. And so the race ended, David Somerville in first and Peter Ray in second. Spectacular driving from all involved, but indeed much more than just driving. Exciting performances of skill and daring for the adoring crowd. Elation, gratitude and the whole shebang was in abundance at the gates of the Total Garage as the King David Somerville commented on his start from the back and whether it challenged him at all to make it up to the front and finally crossed the finish line in first.
To be honest, I know there's been a whole damper on the day since Doug had the accident. It definitely puts a damper on racing at Dover when that happens, and I could see it, and I think the fans wanted something different, wanted some excitement. Could have gone anyway. I could have, I didn't know if we could beat Peter. Peter was really fast today. I've had a battle with him all day. I mean, I haven't been able to pull him, so there was definitely concerns. It wasn't that I was sure I was going to win or anything like that. But it's really for the fans, and it came out, today has been a day that just everything has worked out in my favor. Some days it's like that, can do no wrong, and that's one of these days, and give thanks for that. At the start, I said, I wonder what I'm doing here, because really, I'm a little concerned, but some days, as I say, everything works right, and today was one of those, and I'm glad I did it. I think the crowd enjoyed it. It wasn't to be boastful. It was about the spectators and giving them something to excite them, because I could say, as I say, they're a bit down after Doug's accident. So.
He also had good wishes for the ATL team, especially going into the Barbados and Guyana meets as part of the Jamaican team.
Doug is out at the moment, but I really feel that team is strong enough to get things together for the next meet. I know they're feeling down and I'm thinking all negative, but I'm really hoping they will be back, and we need them. We definitely need them in Barbados and Ghana if we want to win the Jamaican title.
And thus, the morning and the evening was race day. Beginning with a bang and ending with a roar, we saw powerful racing machines driven and ridden by talented men and women, skillful defense of position and daring challenges from both the expected and the unexpected. Unfortunately, race day also saw its fair share of crashes and accidents, such as Doug Gore's frightening exit from the CMRC1 first race, Halkin Rodney's tumble, drop and spin in the CMRCM second race, and Samantha Somerville's aggressive challenge on the tire barrier in the CMRC2. Spinouts, blown engines, and other mechanical mishaps were not absent either. But all things considered, the patrons were out in their numbers, in person and online. The vendors were out in similar numbers. The racers performed to the best of their ability, and without a doubt, it was a good day at Dover.